Okay, so let's begin. This is a long story, so bear with me. So at the time, this is 2013. I'm a very young, not very young, I guess. 2013, how old was I 2013? It was 5 years ago. I was 31. But basically, I'm like this wide-eyed, still, I don't understand how a lot of this stuff works in the gaming industry back then. In 2013, I'm talking with my, back in the day, if you were a part of GameStop, you had like a channel manager. And I was talking with him about E3. And I was thinking about going and all this other stuff. And while these conversations were going on, I was also hooking up with a Portuguese website called Portugal Gaming. Actually, I wonder if they're still online. Because I remember that they definitely switched management after all that shit. There's a Facebook page, apparently. There's a Facebook page. Let me get this up. Oh wow, I think I was actually the one who did these videos, right? Let me hear the voice. This is gonna be in Portuguese. Yeah, I was probably the one who edited this. And the one who did the...
Olá a todos, mais uma vez o meu nome é Rui Modesto e bem-vindos ao RPG. Uma vez que a equipa do Portugal Gaming decidiu mudar...
Yeah, I was the one actually doing these videos. This is their YouTube channel. I uploaded stuff onto their YouTube channel, and I did these videos for them. But ultimately, I was working with these guys because there's a friend of mine from college, someone that I knew from college, who was also working with them part-time, just because, you know, you want to do stuff around video games. Whenever you're passionate about video games, you want to do stuff around video games. So this was not his job, but on his spare time, he would like write articles for these guys, or he would record videos or stuff. And I was like, you know, I always wanted to have my own Portuguese project, so I was working with these guys to get like videos done, to get interviews, podcasts, that kind of stuff. So I was working with this website called Portugal Gaming. And Portugal Gaming, the person behind the website actually did not live in Portugal. So let me give you guys map Portugal. Whoa. Okay, I'm terrible at geography, but some of these are Açores. This one right here is Madeira. Jesus, I was like, where the fuck's Madeira? But anyway, okay, so this is Portugal, right? This right here is Portugal. And the person that was behind the website... Don't show the address? What address? Dude, I don't care about my address. If someone sees my address, I really don't care. Like, look, most of my audience is from the United States. Ain't nobody coming to fly over to Portugal to kill me. Okay? Nobody's coming to fly over to Portugal to kill me. And I'm not going to show his address, but whatever. He doesn't live in the actual mainland. This guy lived over here in this island. This is the island of Madeira. So the person in charge of the Portugal Gaming website lives on this island. And therefore, as you can imagine, most of the gaming-related things happen around our capital. So, in Lisbon. I myself live somewhere around... Where the fuck is Setúbal? Coina... Okay, I myself live somewhere around here, in Pinhal Novo, right? This is the capital of Portugal, so I'm pretty close by. So the idea was, whenever Portugal Gaming had like interviews or events that were happening in Portugal, they could send me, and I would go there and I would cover the event for them. And this is how I got to know some of the people in the industry, right? So they got me, the very first thing that they got me into was God of War Ascension. I got to interview the developers at Santa Monica behind God of War Ascension, which was really cool. I was really happy about that because it was the first time that I interviewed anyone. I was super nervous. Like, I'm talking like I had cold sweats. Okay? I had cold sweats when I was doing this. So, I go there, I do the interview, everything works out fine, and I take my first steps in like the gaming industry per se, the actual interacting with people in the industry. After that, they got me into another interview for The Last of Us, and basically, because of the fact that they had these connections, that they were able to get me into these events, I was like, I trusted them. You know, I trusted this guy that lived in an island. I trusted him because I was like, well, I mean, he's been able to get me on all of these things. He's not going to dick me over, right? So I told him, just like I told you guys that I was talking about with my channel manager for my YouTube channel, I was talking about going to E3. And so I tell this guy, I'm like, look, dude, I'm going to go to E3. And I'm going to try to get us as many scoops as I can for the website and all of that stuff. And the guy comes back to me and he says this, cool, let's go together. I'll handle everything. This is what he says. And you have to look at my reasoning here, right? This is a guy that got me into an interview with people from Sony. This is a guy that got me in an interview for other stuff, right? So I'm like, I have no reason to distrust this guy. And so he tells me, I'll take care of everything, no problem, everything will be taken care of. And so I just let it slide, because this was a couple of months ahead of E3, because naturally, if you're going to E3, you don't start planning E3 in June, okay? You want to plan months in advance because you want to book hotels, you want to get the best rates for your airplane travels, and all of that stuff. So, time goes by, and I'm always talking with him about it, and I'm like, okay, dude, so what's the deal? How much do I have to pay you? Because he's saying that he will buy the plane tickets, he will pay for the hotel reservations, all that stuff. And I'm constantly checking up with him. I'm like, okay, but how much do I owe you? And he's like, oh, we'll talk about that. Don't worry. We'll talk about that. And I was like, oh, okay. So this goes on and on and on until I should have seen it coming at this point. We're like 1 week ahead of E3. And he's just still telling me, yeah, dude, everything's taken care of. I have the hotel reservations. I have the planes and all of that stuff. It's all taken care of, dude. You don't have to worry about it. And you know, there's also this thing, which is I'm a content creator, right? A lot of my time is spent me basically creating videos or doing live streams or doing stuff that furthers my channel. So if I can avoid spending time tackling, like, you know, other things like managing, booking flights or hotels, like, I'm happy. Someone else taking care of it, fucking great. So you see that that's where we got. So eventually this drags on onto the very day before the day that we were supposed to leave. And in that day, I'm like all day phoning him, contacting him on Skype, sending him messages, texts, everything. Dude is radio silent. Nothing, not a peep. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is really bad. And the main reason why this is bad is because I'm talking to all of these people in my network, right? Which at the time was the game station. I'm talking to all of them, telling them, yeah, dude, I'm going to come down. It's going to be a blast. We're all going to hang out. And at that point, you basically, if you don't go, people start looking at you. Oh yeah, he's that guy. He's that guy that always says that he's going to do shit, but he doesn't actually do it. Right? That's kind of the reputation that you get, and that is something that I never, ever want to have. If I say I'm doing something, I'm fucking doing something. Unless it's meaning hunting horn on Monster Hunter World on PC. I'm not doing that. But anyways, you guys get the idea, right? So I'm like panicking because I'm not getting anything off of this guy, and I don't know what I'm going to tell my contacts over in America, because, like, what am I going to do? Am I going to cancel everything now? That's dumb. That's really fucking stupid. So basically, I take the optimistic approach. I pack my bags and I get ready to leave at 7 a.m. in the morning to head over to the airport to catch a flight. And the reason I say 7 a.m. is because I looked up at the airport and I look all of the flights that would have all of the flight connections and stuff that would have final destination Los Angeles, and I knew exactly when the first flight got out of the airport So I knew that if I woke up at 7, I'd be good to go. So I go to sleep and I wake up 7 a.m. that day. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready to go to the airport. I got people driving me. I have everything in place to go to America. And I look up my computer because I'm still trying to get in touch with this guy. And there's a Skype message. I'll never forget. There's a Skype message of someone claiming to be the cousin of the person that I had been working with up until that point, telling me that it's like, oh, he had like some kind of a nervous breakdown. He's in the hospital. He can't talk right now. And I'm just like, that's a load of bullshit. I was so pissed off. I was fucking livid. I was like, oh, you son of a bitch. Dude, I was the rage. It was insane. And so at this point, I know, or at least I'm assuming, this person didn't do anything at all. So I'm calling up the airport and I'm trying to find like reservations in my name for flights to California. I'm like, do you have any reservation for any flight under this name? They're like, no, there's nothing in your name today, tomorrow, this whole week. There's nothing, no reservations. With all of the companies that did flights that ended up in Los Angeles from the Lisbon airport, I called all of them up and I talked with everyone there, trying to just figure it out. And there was nothing, basically. So at this point, I'm just assuming, okay, so there's no hotel, there's no planes, there's no nothing. E3 is, I think, is it 2 days away at this point? Yeah, I think E3 is 2 days away because we were planning on going early so that we could get our bearings and stuff. It was the first time that I was going to LA as an adult. I had been to LA before, but I was like a child with my parents. So this was the first time I was going to LA as an adult, so I needed to get the lay of the land, understand what the fuck's going on, all of that stuff. And so that day, I spent the whole day looking at hotel reservations, trying to find a hotel that I could get. I looked at flight options that I would have. The best flight that I could get was going to be the next day. So basically I was like, okay, so I got 24 hours to prepare this whole thing and head out to E3. 24 hours. That's what I had to prepare something like going to E3. And you need to understand, this is a massive investment. Going from Portugal to the States, that's like minimum of around $2,000 just in flights alone. And then you have the hotel expenses and all that. And I did not know America well enough to like, oh, let's just do an Airbnb or something. Airbnb wasn't even that big in 2013. It was not like a standard thing, right? So I'm hooking all of this stuff up. And eventually I just call up my father. I'm like, look, this thing happened. I need to be able to go. I need to go. Otherwise, my reputation is going to suffer. And I need to go. And so my father was like, okay, so book the hotel. I'll loan you the money and you can go. Just make sure that you're safe. My father was just concerned that I was not gonna like get kidnapped or something in America. So my father paid for the hotel. I paid for the flight expenses and all of that stuff. And I booked the flight and I booked the hotel. The hotel was right next to the Staples Convention Center, like right next to it. So I basically was able to walk to E3 every morning. And that's why that hotel was so fucking expensive. It was also the only hotel, I think, within a 5-mile radius or something of the event that had available rooms. Which explains why it was so fucking expensive. No one was going to buy a room at that hotel, right? So I set everything up, and next morning I go to the airport, and like one of the best coincidences that has ever happened in my life happens that day. So I go to the airport, and as I'm standing in the check-in line, I see someone that looks familiar to me. Because I've seen this person at 2 of these events that I had been to. Like I said, I had been to the God of War event and I had been to the Last of Us event. And this person was the person in charge of what was it? I think she was a product manager. I don't know, but she was basically like the biggest person that you could possibly know for PlayStation in Portugal. That's who she was. So I recognized her from the events. At the time, I didn't really have a good idea of who she was or what she did for PlayStation, but I knew that she did work for PlayStation. So I do all of the check-in stuff, and then I go up to her and I would like to talk with you when you're done checking your luggage. And she also recognized me because she had seen me at the events doing the interviews and stuff. So she does check in. We go, and she's like, "Oh, I need to go get a coffee or something." So we actually go outside the airport to get a coffee. And over the coffee, I explained to her everything that's happened. And this is where the plot thickens. Apparently, this person that canceled out on me, well, not canceled out, he supposedly had a mental breakdown or whatever the hell happened, right? This person had actually booked reservations for presentations with PlayStation. So he was not only hurting my rep with my YouTube channel managers and stuff over in California, he was actually hurting his own website because he had made reservations with PlayStation and God knows who else. I don't know if he made reservations with other people in the industry, right? And I was like, oh, wow. So there's even reservations in our name to go like for certain presentations that PlayStation had prepared. And I was like, huh, really? Okay. So she tells me what I should be doing and how I should go about going to these presentations and all of this stuff. And that's how I got to know one of the most important people in PlayStation in Portugal at that time. It was that coincidence that the dude canceled out on me, and because of that I had to go one day late, and I saw her in the check-in line when I was checking my luggage for the airplane. Insane friggin' coincidence. But eventually I go to E3 and everything actually panned out amazingly because the people that were working with the game station, they allowed me to tag along one of their camera crews, and that's how I actually learned how things work over at E3. How you do the hustle of trying to get interviews, of trying to get the behind closed doors presentations. That's how I learned how to do the dance, so to speak, because there's a dance to it. There's a dance to all of this E3 stuff and all these conventions. You have to go up there and you have to, first of all, you got to have a media badge. And I'll tell you guys right now, I had a fake media badge. A fake media badge. Why? Because the badge that my network had gotten me was, what do you call it back then? I think it was an industry badge. So this was a badge for you would be on the same level as someone that works retail at GameStop or something like that. So those badges, they mean absolutely nothing. What you really want is a media badge. The media badge makes all the difference. People talk with you if you have a media badge. If you have an industry badge, nobody gives a shit. Not a single person gives a flying fuck about you unless you have a media badge. That's how it works. And apparently they had a media badge for someone that wasn't present. The game station, they had additional media badges. And so what happened was they would loan me the media badge whenever I needed to go and try and see if I could get interviews or something like that. I would go with the media badge. And then we would swap it around. Basically, my media badge set a completely different name to my name. And I would always have to look to see if people were checking for your ID at the entrance of each of the halls, because I knew that if they were checking for IDs, I couldn't get in. It was so weird. It was like the weirdest thing. But yeah, I was able to go in there. I was able to do a lot of stuff. I actually got to watch a behind closed doors presentation of Witcher 3 at the time. I got to interview. Well, no, I didn't interview. I helped with the interview for The Witcher 3. But I was the one who conducted the interview for Dark Souls 2. I got to interview, I think it was Tanimura-san, if I remember correctly. I did that interview. I did the Warframe interview. I did the interview for Transistor, which not sure if you guys, how many of you guys know about Transistor, I did a bunch of interviews that actually ended up on the Polaris channel, which was pretty cool. I was super excited about that. It was really awesome. But I got to know how all of that stuff worked, right? And during all of that, I kept sending all of the information that I would get and all of my notes. I would send all of that stuff back to the people that were working on the Portugal Gaming website. Because you need to understand, I got dicked over by one person. But there was a lot of people actually working at the website, and I'm like, well, there's no reason to me dicking over everybody else in that website. So I sent them all of my notes, all of my videos, all of the basically everything that I got out of E3. And after that, I told them, here's all this stuff. I just want you guys to know I'm never working with you guys again. And they're like, why? What happened? And I told them what happened. They were like, holy shit, that's fucked up. And the website basically died because nobody wanted to work with that guy again. But eventually, long story, that's how I got my first contact, which was with PlayStation. And eventually I asked them for a meeting so that I could go there and properly present my project, which they agreed with, and they started sending me codes. And after that, I was like, okay, so now I know how this works. And so basically, I was like, okay, what do I want to do next? What do I want to pursue next? And the next one that I pursued was Nintendo. And this was awesome because I just straight up, I'm like, let me just see, who handles PR at Nintendo Portugal? And I started digging around until I got one email. And I'm just like, I was going to email this guy. Boom, that's what I did. I just straight up emailed the person that was a head of PR in Nintendo in Portugal. And I said, hey, I would like to meet with you. It was that simple. Like, people always ask me, how do you get all these contacts? How do you get the early codes? It is literally that simple. You chase down until you find someone who is willing to listen to you, and then you sell yourself. Then you sell your project. That's how it goes. And so basically, after all of this E3 crazy stuff happened, I just started looking for companies that I would like to work with, and I started contacting them. And always, the thing with me has always been, though, like, I don't want to exchange emails with you if we're in the same country. Like, I want to meet you face to face to tell you about me. That's the way that I work. Like, all of this email shooting back and forth, it's like, look, I'd rather do phone calls, okay? Phone calls. That's how I'm old school, baby. Old school. So I'm always the guy that I would rather be face to face with someone than like be in an email thread. Now, naturally, this can't always happen, right? But to give you guys another idea, for instance, I got early access to Monster Hunter World, right? This was last year. Last year, I wasn't planning on going to Gamescom. I was not going to go to Gamescom because I'm just like, look, I'm too busy. Last year was also when I lost my job at Broadband TV, and so I was like, I don't want to go to Gamescom. I'll save some money, and then I learned that shit. It was like one of the very first times, I want to say, that Capcom was going to Gamescom, and I was like, holy shit. And then I see on Twitter that Monster Hunter World is going to be playable at Gamescom, and I was like, I gotta go because, again, it's that thing where I don't want to be the guy that is just an email thread. So I went to Gamescom, and my main objective for Gamescom that year was to meet the person who was behind the marketing and everything for Monster Hunter World. And that's how I met Socks. I harassed him on Twitter. I didn't harass him through email because I didn't get his email. But basically, I spam messaged him. Like, you can ask him if you ever meet Socks. You can ask him about it. Like, you go to the his Twitter DMs and just like spam of messages from me. Like, where are you? I want to meet you. I want to meet up. Socks, where are you? And eventually he would reply. And whenever he would reply, I'm like, okay. And that's how I met Socks. And that's how I also got early access to Monster Hunter World. It's always about selling yourself, you know? It's always about that. Crazy stalker con. I mean, it's almost stalker levels, but in a way it's like this is one of the most competitive industries in the world, if not the most competitive industry in the world right now. And you got to find a way to stand out. And I'm not saying that you should go out and harass people. I didn't technically harass him. I just messaged him a lot to try and get to wherever the hell he was so that I could meet up with him. And I met up with him the very first day that I was at Gamescom. And I was able to play Monster Hunter World for the very first time. And it was awesome. Rurikhan. Yeah, see, Split Screen PT, he also does a lot of this crazy stuff. He also does a lot of this chasing down after people. He knows the hustle. Split Screen PT, he knows the hustle. He had it a little bit easier than me at the start because he worked for like a big website, a magazine. You worked for a magazine, so you actually had a little bit of the publishers coming after you, right? Right, am I right? You actually had the publishers also coming after you back in the day. Not anymore, though. Not that much, I guess. But they would come after you because you worked for that magazine. But yeah, he's also an industry professional right there. And he's an amazing dude, by the way. Yeah, it was B-Gamer. They still chase you. Okay, well, there you go. Because he makes an impression. Because this guy right here makes an impression as well. And that's what matters in order to get yourself out there. You have to take chances, and I take chances every friggin' day. Because that's just the way it goes. Split screen.